the sentencing of 3 people convicted in the Joshlin Smith disappearance case is thought of sending a strong message to would-be perpetrators this Child Protection Week. The little girl's mother, Kelly, and her 2 accomplices have been slapped with life terms for human trafficking and 10 years each for the count of kidnapping. National Child Protection Week is observed annually to raise awareness about the rights and protections of children. The theme this year is Working Together to End Violence Against Children. Let's speak more about this with Migration, Displacement and Child Protection Thematic Lead, Margaret Zulu, who joins us now via our video link. Margaret, thanks for your time, and it's great to have you on the program, albeit on this really troubling story, especially when you consider that the little girl is still missing. Despite the constitutional legal frameworks in place, why do you think that we still witness such high levels of violence against children in this country?
Thank you very much for having us, Ayanda. And for us at Save the Children, it's really a concern that we continue to experience high levels of violence against children in the country. And according to research and what we are seeing in our programming is that first and foremost, we have normalized violence against children within the homes and within the schools and in all settings. And if violence against children is normalized within the home, it means we are exposing this child to violence outside the home. It means we are saying the child should be okay with being violated wherever they are. And so that has been normalized, and we are calling on all caregivers, parents, and communities not to normalize it, not to look away, but to report cases of violence against children. Another issue that the judge spoke to when he handed down the sentence was the use of drugs and substance abuse. And we know that this can never be an excuse for violating children. And so in spite of substance abuse happening, we know it's happening in families, in communities. We need to support the people that are, abusing substances, but at the same time, we need to continuously speak to any forms of violence against children. And by that, I mean speak against any forms of violence against children. And lastly, and this is really critical, Ayanda, I want to speak to the aspect of silencing the children, making the child invisible at all levels. In the home, if a child wants to speak and explain how they feel, express themselves, it has been normalized that a child must keep quiet when adults are speaking. And so we are teaching them to be silent, and we cannot afford to let children not talk about the violations that they are facing in person and also online. And so we need to actually listen to the children and let them participate in all decisions that affect them, including, protections on violations against them.
It's a multi-layered problem, isn't it? I mean, as you're speaking now, I'm reminded of that cultural saying that children should be seen and not heard. Difficult to change adults' mindsets about the difficulty in that, or rather the dangers associated with that policy.
Absolutely. A child is a person, is a human being, and caregivers, adults, and anyone who is taking care of the child cannot commodify a child. That means we should not be able to do as we please with children. There are repercussions for that. And for us as Save the Children, we are seeing this judgment that was passed yesterday as a clear sign and a warning to those would-be offenders, and that we need to be careful how we treat our children. We cannot do to children as we please. And as we see in this case, it was a case of kidnapping, arrangements to sell the child because of the looks of the child. And this cannot be tolerated at any level.
Sure. Often, Margaret, when we speak about what else can be done either to protect children or women in this country, people point to legislation, government policies. Is that where you reckon the problem still lies?
A lot has been done in terms of legal frameworks to protect children. And so what we see in terms of gap is the implementation of these frameworks. We have the overall protection of the Constitution that protects children and their families, but we also have the Children's Act 38 of 2005 with amendments in 2016. And now we do have the Children's Amendment Bill 18 of 2020, where we were also privy to submitting, comments as the public were asked to submit comments on this. So I'm highlighting these two key legal instruments that protect children. There are so many others. For instance, there's protocols as well that are protecting children. The implementation, particularly in terms of coordination between the different stakeholders that are involved in protecting the children, is where we see the gap. And we need to ensure that we provide resources and we deal with implementation of these protections for children. And what we see also, particularly with regards to implementation of these policies, is not allowing children to participate in the way they feel comfortable and protecting them as they participate. For instance, if a child needs to speak to about how they feel and they have language barriers, we're asking them in English as an example, they are not speaking in a language that they are comfortable with, then we are depriving them of the opportunity to really express themselves. So child participation in the implementation of policies remains critical in protecting children.
Yeah, I started our discussion by mentioning that, of course, a lot of the focus for especially residents in Saldanha Bay is that little Joshlin is yet to be found. And I should be careful about how I phrase this next question, Margaret, without sounding like an eternal pessimist. But in your line of work, what have you learned about the window in which a child like or in Joshlin's position can be found, given the nature of the kind of trafficking networks that we see have links to other places in the world in South Africa?
I want to start by indicating that as long as Joshlin is not yet found and we do not know her fate, it means there is no justice for Joshlin. And what that means is that there's no closure for, the family and the communities that really care about this child and her peers. I was so moved by the letter and, the information that came from peers of Joshlin. And so what we've learned in our work is that it takes too long. We need to prioritize such cases. We need to find all the missing children. We need to put systems in place that ensure that these children are found, the children that are missing. And I would like to quote Prof. Mpo, who indicated that we need political will, but we also need a system that allows us to investigate further when it comes to cases of kidnapping and child trafficking.
All right, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us, Margaret Zulu. It's a story that has reached a seminal moment, but I think is far from over. Hopefully has a good ending. Margaret Zulu is the Migration, Displacement and Child Protection Thematic Lead. Once again, thanks very much indeed for your time.